Please be seated. The court is now back in session. The chamber would like to give the floor once again to the defense team for Kyu Sampon to continue putting further questions to Mr. Steve Hedder. You may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Hedder, I would like us to now go into another line of questioning. At the hearing of the 11th of July 2013, at about 15 hours 28, the co-prosecutor put the following question to you, and I quote, regarding factual information from factual sources. I'm not asking you for an opinion. Apart from S21 confessions, did you see factual documents regarding the functioning of Office 870? And your answer was as follows. I believe the answer is yes, but I would like to look at those documents again. I believe that there are several references, but since this is a matter in dispute, which is crucial, and there's a lot of ambiguity regarding the terms used and even factual basis. End of quote. My first question to you is as follows. What do you mean when you say that these matters were in dispute and were crucial? I don't know how this is being interpreted to you in English. Do you recall what you told the co-prosecutor?
Well, I think there's a fact not in dispute, which is that this number, this code 870, has something to do with the top structure in the party hierarchy or in the party structure overall. And there are there are testimonies, interviews, and some documents which say, or at least appear to say, something quite specific about the existence and the role of something called Office 870, or Offices 870, because, as I said very early on, it's not always entirely clear in Khmer when something is singular and when something is plural. So what 870 connotes, what Office 870, or what all Office 870 might be, it seems to me is sort of generally recognized as important, but not agreed upon either among the people to whom I have spoken or within the tribunal itself from my somewhat cursory reading of previous exchanges on this issue, previous in-court, open court exchanges between the parties on this issue. So I wanted to, rather than talk off the top of my head about documents, which are maybe particularly important, I wanted to see the documents so that I wouldn't make any simple errors of memory with regard to the content of those documents.
Oui, précisément, c'est...
Thank you. And that is the point to which I am coming now. In due course, I would like to show you some documents in order to obtain some clarifications from you as a person who carried out investigations on the matter. But on a preliminary basis, we have documents referring to the figure 870, but with different terminology. I would like to show you different terms and ask you to say whether this corresponds to something specific. in light of the investigations you conducted and the facts you were able to obtain. First term, 870 committee. Does 870 committee mean the same thing as Office 870? Or does it mean the same thing as M870?
Witness, please hold on. The prosecution, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we are getting into the realm now of opinion. If there's a specific document with 870 committee or M870 and Mr. Header confirms that he's seen that particular document and is asked questions about that particular document, that may be non-opinion evidence, but in my respectful submission, we now have hit the marker where we're going from treating Mr. Header as a witness of fact to an expert witness commenting upon potential interpretations of phrases in documents that aren't even being shown to him.
Comme je l'ai indiqué, Monsieur le Président.
As I pointed out, Mr. President, I will return to the document, so I will rephrase my question. Did you hear the term 870 committee as part of your work for the co-investigating judges, or the interviews you conducted, or as part of your work for the ECCC? I mean Committee 870.
Yes, yes, and yes. I mean, I certainly heard the phrase, the formulation referred to before the existence of the court, during and after the existence, or during and after the time that I was at the court. And I, just for being pedantically specific, I can't think off the top of my head of an instance in which it actually appears in the full phrase Committee 870 or 870 Committee. To my recollection, in terms both of documents and in terms of oral accounts, it's always referred to as COM 870, which appears to be a shortened form for the word committee, commonly appears as a short form for committee, according to what I've been told by people to whom I've spoken. At the same time, other people to whom I've spoken have said, with reference to COM, that it was often used to refer to a single individual. So people to whom I have spoken over the years have said, either said that it means committee, or said that it refers to the top person in that committee, or said, even more frustratingly, sometimes it means one of these things, sometimes it means the other. So that's something I have been told, certainly more than once over the years. And that's why in my prefatory remarks to the prosecution I talked about ambiguity. There is ambiguity in this formulation, according to what I've been told.
Est-ce que vous avez entendu un...
Did you hear the expression in French, Office 870, and in Khmer the word would be Munti 870? I don't speak Khmer, but the word is Munti 870. Did you ever hear such an expression or see such a term?
Yes, again, both before in my own work before the court was established, in my work while I was at the court, and since. And to clarify the linguistic issue, Munti is conventionally translated as office. M before 870 is conventionally understood or to be a shortened form for office. I've had some discussions about this matter with Cambodian and Vietnamese party members who are familiar with both languages, and they have said to me that this word Munti in Khmer is derived from a Vietnamese word Phong, which means room or office, and which in conventional translations of Vietnamese sometimes is rendered as service. So again, take your pick. But it's all the same word. It's just how it's understood or how it's rendered into a foreign language.
Et avez-vous déjà dans le cadre
And as part of your work, before, during, and after you left the ECCC, did you get to know documents, or did you see interview reports in which reference was made to Political Office 870?
I really think I've only seen that once in a document, and never or too few times to remember in oral accounts. So there's not a lot, to my recollection, specifically using that term in any of the contexts that you asked about.
Et dernier vocable.
And this is the last term in respect of which I would ask the same question as the last one. Did you hear or see as part of your work before, during, and after you left the ECCC, Brother 870?
I believe I've seen that on what are purported to be internal CPK documents, which I saw both at DC Cam before the court was established and at the court while I was working at the court.
Comme vous m'avez indiqué,
as you stated that you saw the reference to the term Political Office 870 in documents, may I request your leave, Mr. President, to show the witness in Khmer document E3/182 with the assistance of the court officer.
Monsieur Eder, et pour les parties,
For the parties, the ERN in French is 00292868. Mr. President, are you agreed with me that I should show the witness the document?
President, yes, you may proceed.
en Khmer,
The ERN in Khmer is 00001908, and the ERN in English is 00183393. May I point out that the passage that is of interest to me is on the first page of the document in the 3 languages. And in the following page, the first page has to do with the meeting of the Standing Committee of the 9th of October 1975. And the agenda is as follows. 1. Delegation of work and the operational process. 2. Preparation for living in common. 3. A number of specific work arrangements, commerce and the military. I'll allow you to peruse the document, Mr. Eder, and tell me whether you recall ever seeing this document before.
Yes.
Je poursuis sur un...
Let me continue on the first page. Small 1. Delegation of work and the operational process. 2. Comrade Secretary in charge of the Army. 3. Comrade Secretary in charge of the party, social affairs, culture, propaganda, and education. 3. Comrade Van in charge of foreign affairs for the state and the party. Comrade M in charge of the front and the royal government, trade, lists, and prizes. 5. Comrade Tuk in charge of national trade and international trade. 6. Comrade Kiel instead of the general staff and security. And let me press on. 7. That is on the next page. And the ERNs are the same as before in the previous, on the 3 languages. Comrade Vaughan in charge of industry and fisheries. Comrade Dune in charge of the political office, 870. 9. Comrade Pia in charge of culture, social affairs, and foreign affairs. 10. Comrade At in charge of propaganda, education, both within the country and abroad. 11. Comrade Che in charge of agriculture. 12. Comrade Yem in charge of Office 870. 13. Comrade Pong in charge of the Office of Administration. The French is simply administration. So this is the distribution of work in this document. And number 8, as I have just pointed out, features Jun, head of the 870 political office. And it appears to me, therefore, that Munti is written in Khmer. Is that indeed correct?
Est-ce que c'est dans ce document?
Is this the document in which you saw the expression Political Office 870 you referred to a while ago?
Yes, and indeed the term that has been almost universally translated as office is the Khmer word Munti. There's something a little bit odd about the formulation here. It uses the possessive Khmer form Raboh after the words political office, which is a bit odd in this context because it's not used elsewhere. And it sort of gives the sense of belonging to. So if you wanted to elaborate the meaning, it could be read as chairman of the political office belonging to 870. Whether there's a distinction between 870 on its own and belonging to 870, I guess that's an expert question. But it's odd.
Au numéro 12.
At number 12 on that list, we have a term translated into French as office. We have Office of Comrade Yem, Office 870, and I am told that in Khmer it is Karyalai. I crave your indulgence for my accent. Have you ever heard people mention that expression Karyalai? And according to the documents you saw or read and interviews you conducted, do you know what that term means, Karyalai 870?
I think I can say that this is the only time I have ever seen or heard this formulation. If I had to translate in order to establish a distinction between the two terms, I would use something like bureau to render Karyalai, if only in order to distinguish it from the more common use, the more commonly used word manti. So these are two different words, each of which could be translated as office. To my mind, the native speakers will all jump up and down and say I'm completely wrong, but to my mind, Karyalai has a more bureaucratic and petty connotation than manti, at least in Khmer Rouge speak, maybe not in the general language. But indeed, there's something different here. What that something different is hard to say.
Thank you for this clarification. Now I would like to refer to another record, not exactly a record, but it's document E3/235. The Khmer reference is 00019-142, the first page. French 00322-968. English 00183416. So it's the first page that I will be focusing on, and the document is titled Summary of the Decision of the Standing Committee of the Meeting of 19/20/21, April 1976, free translation. With your leave, Mr. President, can we please provide the Khmer version of the document to Mr. Heder so that he may follow more consistently. I'm being told that we only have the English version, so I will provide the English version.
Et on va afficher.
And we're going to display the Khmer version on the screen as we wait for the hard copy in Khmer. Because, of course, we would like you to go through this document in its original language, so I'm going to wait for the Khmer copy. Is the document now available on the screen? So, following the heading, the title of this decision, this is what is stated. After 3 days of discussion on the issues on the agenda, the Standing Committee took the decision as follows. First, regarding the creation of various committees around 870. 1. The Commerce Committee. I'm just going to now mention the names of the different committees, and I will not mention the members with my pronunciation. 1. The Commerce Committee. 2. The Energy Committee. 3. Land Transport Committee, 4. Sea Transport Committee, 5. The Phnom Penh Warehouse Committee, 6. The Harbor Committee, and this continues on to the next page, 7. The Agriculture Committee, 8. The Industry Committee, 9. Public Transport Committee, 10. The Railway Committee, 11. The Sewing Committee, and I will now ask for the court officer's assistance because I finally have the Khmer document available to me so that Mr. Heder can have it.
The President, you may proceed.
Ma question.
So my question is the following. Have you ever seen this document in the context of your work before or during your time at the ECCC? Are you aware of this document?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Est-ce que vous avez...
Did you ever interview people, or did you see documents referring to these various committees surrounding Office 870?
Yes, quite a few in both regards, both documents and oral material, oral interviews.
Je vais y revenir.
I will get back to this a bit later, and I would like to continue with another document. This is document E3/220. French ERN 00323891. English ERN 00182706. Khmer 00000827. 5 zeros before the 827 corrects the interpreter. And as earlier on, before you receive the hard copy, can this document be displayed on the screen, please? These are minutes of the meeting of the Standing Committee on 7 May 1976. Under the heading, we see the issues of commerce. And the list of participants: Super Comrade Secretary, Deputy Secretary, Super Comrade Van, Comrade Vaughan, Comrade Yem, Comrade Dun, Comrade Tuk, and the actual minutes. And now, once again, with the assistance of the court officer, I would like to provide a Khmer version of the document to Mr. Heder. Under heading 1 in this document,
The President, you may proceed.
so the Commerce Committee, heading 1. Take Comrade Che from Agriculture to come and control commerce. Comrade Dun will go down to commerce for 3 months, May, June, and July. 1 half day at the office and 1 half day at commerce. Comrade Dun selected a number of comrades to prepare and build for international commerce. Their capabilities are at the level of Comrade Chun or lower. End of quote. My first question, unfortunately I only have the French version with me now. When I read Comrade Dun will go down to commerce for 3 months, 1 half day at the office, 1 half day at commerce. What was the Khmer word for office used? And have you already seen this document? Maybe I should have asked you first, have you already seen this document?
Yes, I have seen the document, and the Khmer term used is Manti.
Je voudrais maintenant...
Now I would like to turn to another series of documents which are not minutes of standing committee meetings. These are telegrams. And for this, since these are short documents and since I know you speak all 3 languages, French, English, and Khmer, I would like to provide you with the 3 language versions because I understand that the translation might differ a little bit, so I'd like to make sure that we're speaking about the same thing. The first document is E3/258. May I please display the Khmer on the screen so far as it is legible and provide the 3 language versions to Mr. Heder with the President's leave. First of all, to know if he's already aware of these documents.
The President, you may proceed.
Alors, sur le...
So, first of all, please go over the Khmer version, and their ERNs are, the ERN is the following: 00001108. And I'm going to also ask you to look at the French version, because this is the version I'm going to use, which is referred to as 00531-058. French. In French, I can read Telegram 3, 267 characters, to Beloved and Missed Office 870 Com. In English, it's the 3rd ERN here, 005822911. And I'll read it in English to you.
267 characters. To Beloved and Missed Office 870 Com. Ma question est la suivante.
So my question is the following. What is the word actually used, exactly used, in the Khmer document?
In the original Khmer salutation, it's all in abbreviated form. So there's the letter M, Mo, which presumably is short for Munti, and there's the short form Kana, Com, which is presumably short for committee. So the French rendering is, to me, not a precise translation, but an expansive interpretation, and that's what results in the use of Committee Central, excuse my bad French accent, which I don't think is justified under the circumstances of these terms having to be dealt with great care. The English is perfectly acceptable. I mean, you could quibble about the order, but and you could shorten office to OF or O or something to signal that it's not the full word. But English is good enough. French is problematic. Too expansive, too interpretive.
Thank you for this clarification. Have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
Tout à l'heure,
Earlier, you spoke about this issue of plural and singular in the Khmer language. And of course, this issue is important in French. In French, I see in the document copy to Uncle Nguyen, to Brother Van, to Brother Vorn, to the offices in plural, and to the archives in the plural form as well. Of course, the question is not relevant in English or in Khmer, but upon reading this document in its Khmer version, were you able to tell if mention was made of one office or of several offices?
On the face of it, the Khmer, which is completely without context in this document itself, on the face of it, it's ambiguous. You couldn't know without a broader context whether the Munti that's mentioned at the bottom of the Khmer version of the document is singular or plural. At least I couldn't know. I would look at that and make a guess as to whether I thought it was most likely singular or plural, or I would use parentheses, square brackets, to indicate that it's ambiguous. That's if I just had this single piece of Khmer language text to deal with. In context, one might be sure of the singularity or the plurality, but only with the context.
je vous remercie de cette précision.
Thank you for this clarification. Now, before I move on to another document, I see, Mr. President, that's a bit past 3:45. So I would now once again like to ask you again, not only to have extra time, because normally I was granted a full day, and an hour and 10 minutes were already used up by objections. So first of all, I'm asking to have this extra hour and 10 minutes, which will be necessary for me to continue my questioning. And I stand by my initial request, which is to have an hour and a half, an extra hour and a half, meaning that to be able to finish my examination tomorrow morning, because as you can see, this is a rather fastidious exercise, but it's the only way I can proceed. These are important documents for the Queue Sampon defense team, and especially since we were only granted 2 days, whereas originally we were granted 2.5 days were granted to the civil parties and the prosecutors, who went beyond that time. So I'm please asking you to give me this extra time, given that I have quite a few very important topics to cover for the Khieu Samphan defense. So I'm making this request right now at 10 to 4 so that there are no problems at 4, but I'm very far from having finished my examination. I also must cover the interviews of Yang Sari and also the interviews with my clients. So, Mr. President, I would be very happy to have your decision before 4 o'clock.
The President, thank you. The Chamber grants leave for Council so that you will have one more session tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, what I want to know, what do you mean by session? Do you mean the full morning or the first part of the morning until the morning break or until the lunch break? Does that mean I will not have any extra time, that I will just have the time that was originally granted to me, that the Chamber won't give me any extra time? Is that what I must understand?
The President, so what is your request now? Are you suggesting that the Chamber take into consideration the time lost for your part to ask the question? And are you making an application that you should be granted one whole morning for tomorrow?
Well, if I am given the full morning tomorrow, and of course I will try to shorten my examination, but given the hour and a half an hour and 10 minutes that I lost today, and I would also like to have the extra hour and a half that had been granted to me originally.
Donc toute la matinée si c'est possible.
So this basically means the full morning, if that's possible.
The President. Now the time you have left tomorrow for questioning the witness of Mr. Stephen Hedder, you will have one session in the morning tomorrow, which means you will have 1 hour and a half until the morning break, as per your request.
Bien.
Well, I take note of this. See if I will make an extra submission for extra time if I face a specific problem. Well, Mr. Hedder, let me continue. Now, I would like to submit to your attention another series of 3 documents in the 3 languages. This is document E3/8 893, which is a telegram number 78. And with the assistance of the court officer, can these three documents in the three languages be provided to Mr. Heder? And can we please display the first page in the Khmer version on the screen?
The President, you may proceed.
Là, à nouveau,
Once again, I'm asking you to refer to the Khmer version, the first page of this document. The ERN is 000708. The English ERN is 00182629. And in French, 00386 In French, I read telegram number 78 to the much respected Bong, Comrade 870 in Bongvi. In English, I read, and I'll read it in English.
M870, enfin 870, pardon, entre crochets Office 870. Je ne sais pas si c'est la mention du traducteur.
In brackets, Office 870. I don't know if that's the translator's mention.
En Khmer, que lisez-vous?
In Khmer, my question is the following. What are you saying, and have you already had this document available?
Yes, this one is familiar as well. And again, sadly, the English translation is much closer to the original, exact with the original, I would say, whereas the French contains an interpretive expansion, the addition of comrade.
And finally, a last series of documents. This is document E3/902. In Khmer, the ERN is the following: 000-20894. In English, 00183625. In French, 00324-514. And with the leave of the President, can this last series of telegrams be provided to Mr. Heder so that he can go over it in all three languages?
The President, you may proceed.
Et j'indique.
And this is telegram 238. We can read fréquence 195 in French, and it's addressed to respected and beloved Central Committee 870. This is what, in fact, appears in the French version. In English, we see, dear beloved,
870. Et je vous demande ce qu'on lit.
and I'm going to ask you what appears in Khmer. And if you have already seen this document as well.
Yes, I've seen the document, and all I can say is, oh dear, both the French and the English are wrong this time. The original Khmer reads, presented with respect to COM 870. So there's no central committee, there's no M for office. Presented with respect to COM 870. And I'll gloss it by saying, leaving ambiguous whether COM is a committee, a whole committee, one committee, another committee, or whether it's a single individual.
Je vous remercie pour ces précisions.
Thank you for this clarification. Mr. President, I see that it's 4 o'clock. I have finished covering these documents. So maybe we could adjourn now and resume tomorrow morning.
The President, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stephen Hadder. Now it is the appropriate point to adjourn for the day. The Chamber shall adjourn now and resume tomorrow, the 18th of July 2013. Tomorrow the Chamber will resume hearing the testimony of Mr. Stephen Hadder, and the floor will be given to the defense team for Mr. Khieu Samphan. This is for the information of all parties concerned as well as the support staff. Mr. Stephen Hadder, your testimony has not yet come to an end. The Chamber invites you to come to testify in this court again tomorrow morning, and court officer is instructed to assist the witness to the place where he stay tonight and have him return to this courtroom tomorrow morning on the 18th of July 2013 before 9 a.m. Security guards are instructed to bring the two co-accused to the detention facility of the CCC and have them return to participate in the hearing tomorrow before 9 a.m. And Mr. Nguyen Chia is to be brought to a holding cell downstairs where audio-visual equipment will be linked to him to follow the proceeding remotely. The Chamber is now adjourned.